many students across Florida, the entire state, not just here in Southwest Florida, but they're enjoying spring break. And if you're in Lee County, the time's ticking because, well, spring break is starting in just a couple of hours for you. If you don't have the day off already, like Jen's kids. But if you have a young child like me, preschool aged, are they ready for that next stage in their education? This morning we have Melanie Stefanowicz. I said it great during Jim's forecast. What? I told you I was a little nervous coming out here tonight. The CEO of Early Learning Coalition of Southwest Florida. She's back with us once again in the studio. I think the third time you mentioned.
Fourth time
that you mentioned. Wow, I'm just hitting it out of the park in every way, shape, and form. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, a guy like me, you got a 4-year-old, 5-year-old at home. What are some ways we can check in on those kids as we're really hitting this March time and spring break time and so on and so forth?
It's a very important time, particularly if they're getting close to a birthday, right? So the most important thing parents can do is ensure that they're setting reasonable goals for their kids based on where their kids' skills levels are. So you pay attention to their language, their communication, their problem solving, their social emotional, their physical aptitudes, right? You kind of just watch them, right? See how they're growing and where you think they may need some help. And individually, right? You don't want to be comparing your kids to other kids because they're your kids and they're unique.
Yeah.
So just watch for those things, because the more we can help them grow, the best way we can do that is by helping them at home.
Hey, it's funny you mentioned my grandmother was a kindergarten teacher for over 50 years.
Wow.
And she kind of had this saying like, no kid enters kindergarten wearing the same shoe size. In other words, just kind of indicating that, you know, every kid is going to be different individually than where they should be. I do have a question kind of off the top of my head. I don't want to throw you for a loop. But the state of Florida, is there kind of an idea of where the average 4-year-old or 5-year-old should be in regards to where they should be educational wise? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, because you see that in elementary.
It's kind of word salad that just kind of came out of my mouth.
No, it's perfect sense. You see it in elementary, middle, and high, right? We have those assessment tests that tell teachers, parents, the community where kids are scoring and where they're performing compared to peers or against benchmarks, right?
Sure.
So the state of Florida is actually developing that process for pre-kindergarten children, and it started with kindergarten with the STAR Early Literacy Exam.
Okay.
And so that measures their skill level in math and in English, so that we can inform parents and teachers how to help them, you know, grow and structure lessons and playtime so that they can improve their skills.
Excellent. What are some examples of those skills that maybe a 5-year-old should know at this point in time?
That's a great question, because I think a lot of parents don't know how to judge. Like, how do I know that my child's growing physically or in communication or language? And so there are certain expectations you have for a 2-year-old that are different from a 3 or a 4-year-old, right? So if you have a 2-year-old, you want them to start forming words and learn vowels and start to communicate with complete thoughts and sentences, right? But if you have a 3-year-old, you want them to have a more structured response to you. You want them to be able to do more than form thoughts. You want them to be able to identify their name in writing and write their name, and to learn to hold a pencil and color. But by the time they get to 4 and they're getting kindergarten ready, you want them to know the entire alphabet in capital form. You want them to be able to count to 100.
100?
To 100. You want your 3-year-old to count to 30, but your 4-year-old to 100. You want them to be able to rhyme. Yeah, there's a whole list of things. You don't, and I think, like I said at the beginning, parents don't know. Like, I should be singing and reading out loud with my kids so that they can learn rhyme and word order and complex sentences, because those little kids, 90% of their brain forms by the time they're 5. So the more we play with them and do those types of things to help them grow and make sense of the world around them, the better off they're going to be when they start to move into school.
Are there some specific things that parents can do?
I really think the more they play with them, read with them and read dramatically, you know, act it out for them, sing with them, teach them to ride a bike and ride a bike with them. All those things. Do puzzles. Puzzles will help them think strategically and start to problem solve. So much more than doing a workbook or an activity on the phone would be. You know, that interaction is fantastic.
Which I think that, I think kids seeing their parents on their phones is kind of becoming more commonplace these days, which is a little unfortunate.
It is.
Because, you know, I can see a 2-year-old who can pick up a smartphone and know exactly what to do with it. You know, just swipe up, swipe down. So interactive play is definitely really important. Another note is how fascinating it is to watch their minds evolve in just a year's time. Like, I have a 4-year-old, and to see where he is from last year, it's worlds different.
Yes.
Tell me about FAST, F-A-S-T.
So that's the test we spoke a moment ago.
Okay.
That is the kindergarten, the tests are given in kindergarten to predict readiness. It's not the readiness exam, but it tells preschool teachers how kids are doing so that they can structure their lessons and their playtime to help them grow and advance their skills in literacy and numeracy.
Now, are there any ways parents can prepare them for that specifically? Or is it just kind of go back to all play kind of stuff?
It goes back to all play. Let the preschool teachers do that, because kids are going to be tested through their whole academic career,
Yes.
right? We see that, and it's, as a former high school teacher, it's exhausting for kids. So while they're young, let's not do that to them at home. Let the teachers at school give them the test and disseminate that data for parents to make sense of.
Are there other learning program opportunities for younger kids?
So through the Early Learning Coalition, we specialize in subsidized care for parents who are eligible. So we have a school readiness program that is full day care with the same benchmarks and learning opportunities for kids that we're talking about, through this interview. And then we have the VPK program for the state of Florida. All 4-year-olds in the state of Florida are eligible for free VPK through the Early Learning Coalition through grant funding we received from the state of Florida.
Was there a deadline to register for the VPK program already, or is there a time when people can...
It's ongoing.
It's going on now.
People can go to our website at elcofsouthwestflorida.org and begin the application process, or they can come by our office or call.
I like that. All right, good stuff. We, of course, will link this information to on abc-7.com. Melanie, thanks so much. You put up with me for 5 minutes, and I can't thank enough of that. But it's all great information. I think it's really important information, especially if you're a parent like my wife and me. We got little kids at home. This is kind of stuff that happens fast. You don't really think about it. All of a sudden, a blink of an eye, it's like, oh, we got to start thinking about,
What's
education.
That? Yeah.
It's not just changing diapers and, sitting them in a high chair anymore. It's,
It's more complex, for sure.
It becomes complex fast. Not to insinuate that my 4-year-old's wearing diapers and sitting in a high chair. It's not happening anymore. 9:27 is the time. We're back in a moment.